Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the GM. It is your guy Boulanger. Up next on the GM, Week 2 NFL's biggest games we predict. Do me a quick favor, hit like. If it is your first time checking out the GM, hit subscribe. Also hit the notification bell so that you get updates when we upload new content. Let's go. So, week number 2 is already underway. We saw a really good game last night between the Vikings and the Eagles, where the Eagles pulled out the win. I believe personally that the Vikings fumbled that game away repeatedly. They had themselves in prime position to get a win against last year's Super Bowl participant, but they just could not get out of their own way. So, my hope is that this Sunday we see just as a competitive game without all of the mistakes. Let's get to it. The first game I want to talk about is going to be the Miami Dolphins versus the New England Patriots. The Miami Dolphins come into this game hot offensively. Tua Tagovailoa kind of put himself in the MVP race with a big time performance last week. And I'm calling this a big game, not necessarily because it has real playoff implications, but I'm calling it a big game because I want to really see if Tua was fluking last week or if he's the real deal. So I want to see that Miami Dolphins offense, those high powered weapons in Hill and Waddle and the tight end and the running backs. I want to see if they can replicate that same type of effort in New England against the Patriots. Will Bill Belichick draw up a big time defensive effort to confuse and kind of stymie what the Miami Dolphins have going on? If not, the Miami wins this game big. Well, the prediction. I believe the Miami Dolphins win this game um, pulling away in the fourth quarter and winning this game by 5 to 7 points. I think this game will be closer than it should be throughout the course of the game, but I believe that because of Miami's firepower, I believe they will make a couple of more big plays to put this game away in the fourth quarter. I predict a score of somewhere 27-21 Miami, 30-23 Miami. Either way, I could be wrong on the score, but I do believe Miami gets this win in Foxborough. Next game, Jacksonville versus the Chiefs. Well, both of these teams come in with different results from week number 1. Jacksonville was in a battle with the Indianapolis Colts last week, pulling away in the fourth quarter, 31-21. I believe that was that final score. I may be a little off with that. And then the Kansas City Chiefs were, I won't say shocked, but they were beaten by the Detroit Lions in week number 1 at home. Will the Chiefs go 0-2? I do believe that they will. I believe that the Jacksonville Jaguars, although may not be a Super Bowl contender, I think they are for real. And I think this young team is just going to continue to get better. I believe they continue their winning ways with maybe a win against the Chiefs, something like, let's go 28-24. Let's go something like 30-28. Something real close. I think the Chiefs are going to come in and try to right the ship from last week. They really had a lackluster performance offensively simply because the wide receivers just could not hold on to the ball. I don't see that happening this week, but I do think that Jacksonville keeps up their momentum from last week. I think they get the run game going with Travis Etienne. I think that Calvin Ridley goes over 100 yards. I think Christian Kirk plays a good second role to Calvin Ridley. And I think they close this game out late in the game with a Trevor Lawrence big play downfield to put them in scoring position and take the lead. That's how I see this game playing out. I think it'll be relatively close. Again, I think this will be some high points in this game, and the Jacksonville Jaguars pull out the win. So stay tuned and let's see if that does happen. Let's jump to the Cleveland Browns versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is a game also where both teams come in from two ends of the result category last week. One team has a win, one team got a loss. And let's start with the losing team from last week. The Pittsburgh Steelers got their heads busted by the San Francisco 49ers last week, where Christian McCaffrey rolled up 150 plus yards on 20 carries. Brock Purdy looked real good last week. They were efficient, they were effective, and they and they pulled off that win. The San Francisco 49ers against the Steelers is who I'm talking about. And so I think that the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to try and establish the run. I think they're going to try to be more efficient in the pass game, but without Deontay Johnson, a big weapon, and then tight end Fairmouth, I hope I pronounced his name correctly. He has some question marks as well. So they could be without, I know, one of their star athletes on offense, but maybe even two. I think that Cleveland's defense is for real. I think they get after the quarterback. I think they total 4 or 5 sacks in this game. I think they force Kenny Pickett into a couple of turnovers, and I think they walk out of Pittsburgh with a close win. I think this will be similarly uh, to what their game was last week with Cleveland. I think they have, excuse me, with Cincinnati. I think Cleveland has a dominant defensive performance. I think they get out of this game 24-10, something like 27-17. But I think they get out of this game relatively clean and and drop Pittsburgh to 0-2. I don't feel as confident about this game because I know Cleveland can do Cleveland stuff, right? I think this game is won by Cleveland defense and run game primarily. I don't think Deshaun Watson is going to have a big time game because you do have a stalwart in Nika Fitzpatrick and also TJ Watt on that defense, which I think will make life complicated for Deshaun Watson. So I think they establish the run and they get downhill and take Pittsburgh out of this game early. So I'm going with Cleveland. Okay, now for the game of the week, in my opinion, the Baltimore Ravens versus the Cincinnati Bengals. This is a highly anticipated game for me simply because it's time for Baltimore to get a little get back on the Bengals. Let me be very clear up front and outright. I believe Baltimore wins this game. I believe this game is 24-17 in favor of Baltimore, 27-21, something like that. Here's why. The Baltimore Ravens have played the Cincinnati Bengals relatively close. And by close, I mean we have kind of held them in check offensively, limiting them to about 20.3 points on average. I did not credit Cincinnati for the 98-yard fumble recovery in last year's playoffs. So when we take the total of last year's games, it comes out to about 20.3 points. That's pretty good against a high-powered Bengals offense. Okay. Uh, I also believe that Baltimore wins this game because we've held Joe Burrow with modest yards, as he has only averaged about 210, somewhere around their yards in all three of those matchups last year. Okay. We've also held the running game in check. They've averaged about 80 yards per game last year, which means we've played them real close. It's just been some mistakes, some turnovers, things like that that have costed us wins. We all understand that in the playoffs, maybe if Tyler Huntley does not fumble that ball and Sam Hubbard doesn't return it for a historic 98-yard fumble recovery for a touchdown, maybe we win that game because we were certainly inside the 2-yard line going in for a score. But all that's in the past. Let's talk about now. The Cincinnati Bengals come off a woeful performance in week number 1, so I'm certain that they're going to be trying to get their passing game established. Okay, on offense for the Baltimore Ravens, we didn't do as well as we wanted to. We did some good things, did some bad things. The bad things were a lot of penalties unforced and um, a lot of carelessness with the ball. So I believe that the Baltimore Ravens will come in with the focus of tightening up the ball security, tightening up the blocking, and uh, minimize the careless mistakes that they were making in week number 1. So let me give you 6 keys to victory plus a bonus for the Baltimore Ravens to win this game this week. Key number 1 defensively is going to be stop the run. Stopping the run is something we've done really well against the Cincinnati Bengals offense, limited them to about 80 yards on average over the last 5 games. That's 3 games last year and 2 games from the previous year. We've done a really good job against them defensively against their run. I think we have the personnel with our down linemen and our interior linebackers to stop the run without bringing an extra man into the box, without blitzing a whole lot. I think we have the horses to do that. And so I think that's key number one, which will allow the Baltimore Ravens to make the Cincinnati offense one dimensional. Now we understand that Cincinnati offense, that one dimension is potent enough to get the job done. But I think if we mix key number one with key number two, which is switch things up in the secondary against Joe Burrow, show him some different coverages, single high, man to man, zone coverage, all those kind of things. Keep him guessing. Keep him trying to figure it out when he gets to the line of scrimmage. Bring the blitz, back the blitz off. Show him all kind of different coverages. Mike McDonald, I think that's his name. I may have the McDonald part wrong, but he has a good history over the last three games last year of limiting Joe Burrow to um, mm, less than average passing yards, averaging 210 yards, which means we've done a good job in the secondary. With mixing things up, I would like to see Rock Sin get on the field more this week. I would like to see what Kevin Seymour has to offer. I would like to see some dime coverage, just something to mix it up to keep Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati offense guessing. Okay. And then the third key defensively is to finish the play. The Baltimore Ravens probably have an additional 15 to 20 sacks that they could have had but didn't attain simply because they didn't finish the play. So many times last year, and then even last week in the game where we had the quarterback in close proximity and did not bring him to the ground. Several times last week where CJ Stroud should have went down for a sack, he would escape to the left or the right, take off running, or even deliver the ball down the field for a big play. And I think that if we just finished the play, we would have racked up an additional three sacks last week, which would have helped put that game away way earlier. Jadavion Clowney should have had two. Adafe should have had one. And so I think that if we can finish the play defensively, bringing the quarterback down, I think those three keys together, switch it up in the secondary, finish the play, stop the run, which is all things which are practical to winning football. I think that we can certainly limit this offense and not allow them to get going against our defense this week. Let's jump to the offensive side of the ball. I think offensively, just like the defense needs to stop the run, we on offense need to establish the run with the running backs. I think that we need to see anywhere from 25 to 30 carries this week from our running backs with an average of 4 to 5 yards, which will put us in that 120 plus yard range. I think that's where we need to be. In fact, that's kind of what we've averaged, you know, over the last three games last year. So I don't see a reason why we can't get that this year. They have the exact same defensive front, Trey Hendrickson, BJ Hill, I think that's his name, and DJ Reader, and we still did that against that defense, going for 120 plus yards. I think we need to do that this week. The running game wasn't super effective last week, so I want to see a concerted effort to go downhill on this Cincinnati Bengals offense. Okay, excuse me, defense. The second key offensively for the Baltimore Ravens, um, introduce the quick passing game from the beginning. Not with those crazy wide receiver screens, but with 7 yard slants, 10 yard slants, seam routes. Attack them where they're vulnerable. The tight end over the last season, plus week one, had pretty decent games, averaging 40 to 50 yards. Not just for the Ravens, but every team has averaged 40 to 50 yards with the tight end, and nobody has the fleet of tight ends that we have. So I think the tight ends can get going in that quick passing game, hitting the seams quick, getting the ball out of Lamar Jackson's hands. We don't need Lamar taking extra hits, and we don't need Lamar back there trying to run around in the pocket to figure out who gets open and make a play. Get that ball out, get into the playmaker's hands, and let them do what they need to do to get the ball down the field. Okay, that's key number two. And that's important because the offensive line has some replacement parts, and so we need to minimize their um, their burden as much as possible while they're trying to gel together um, with a new center and a new left tackle. And then key number one: allow allow Lamar to take the running lane. Now, when I say it that way, it sounds like he's been limited. That's not really what I'm saying. I'm saying coach him up. Allow him to know that Lamar, just because you have new weapons, that don't mean you can't take that running lane. We saw Lamar Jackson a couple of times last week, in all honesty, but at least three times where the running lane opened up right in front of him. And if he had just hit the gas, he could have picked up 10, 12 yards and got down pretty easy. But you saw him go towards the line of scrimmage and then he'd stop and pass the ball. Both is fine if the pass is completed, but the easy yard is to take off running, slide down, and get back to the line of scrimmage. And with that, um, I think it keeps the Cincinnati Bengals offense, Cincinnati Bengals defense off pace. I think it limits them being able to rotate, and because the second part of this is to get on the gas when it comes to play calling. Be able to get up off the ground, get back to the line of scrimmage, run some hurry up so that the offense can get into a flow. There was a couple of times last week it just seems like the offense didn't have a flow. So I'm saying, hey, you pick up 8 or 9 yards, get back to the line of scrimmage and go again. Keep Sam Hubbard on the field from rotating. Keep DJ Reader on the field from rotating. Keep those big defensive linemen on the field. That way, because the way you really offset a good defensive line is to run the ball and also cause them to get tired with a fast pace. So those are the three keys. The overall bonus key, which would be key number 7, is don't do stupid stuff. Stupid stuff like be careless with the ball, right? Stupid stuff like try to make a play that's not there to make instead of just throwing the ball away. Stupid stuff is hitting the quarterback late. Stupid stuff is jumping off sides. Stupid stuff is pass interference when the play is seemingly over. Let's not do stupid stuff. We can't have 106 penalty yards this week and 13 penalties and expect to win this game. So those are my keys to victory. You guys let me know what the Baltimore Ravens need to do, what you think about the commentary. I'm your guy, Boulanger. This is the GM, and we are out.